Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be building our own villages and going against others' villages by playing some animal cards. For example, our boars will be flipping over other people's cards in their village, making them 0 points. And our wolves are tricky in their activating abilities of other animals. Today we're talking about this quick card game called Harald. Now this is for 2 to 4 players, takes about 30 minutes to play, and is currently on Kickstarter right now by Eagle Griffin Games. Let me show you what's played, and I'll see you on the other side. In Harald, you're trying to have the most valuable village at the end of the game. Gameplay is pretty simple. Everyone is going to have their own village in front of them. There's going to be a king's council in the middle, and then there's going to be the reserve, essentially a draw portion. On your turn, essentially you're going to take the 4 cards that are in your hand. You're going to choose one to add to the king's council, and then you'll add one to your own village. Now at the beginning of the game, you get to select one of the cards that's dealt to you as the first starting character in your village. But then here, let's just say I play a navigator. There's 6 different types of characters, or suits if you will. This is a blue card, it's a navigator. We put him in the King's Council, and I have another one of those that I'm going to put in my village. Now these guys don't do any effects or anything when you put them in the King's Council. It just tells you how much these guys are going to be worth in your own village at the end of the game. I'll tell you more about that later, but with this, when you place it in your village, you can, if you want to, activate the effect of this character. I'll go over these effects in just a moment. Now after I finish putting those in my village, I now can draw the 2 cards to replace the ones that I've taken, because you start every turn with 4 cards. I place 2, and now I draw 2. You can draw them from here, or you can draw them from the draw pile. If you take from here, I'll take another navigator, and one gets added, and let's say, ooh, I like this guy, I'll take him. And then another one gets added. It will then be the next player's turn, but remember you could also pull from the draw pile as well. So here's the different character cards that are in the game, and remember these get activated when you put them in your own village. The red, or the boar blacksmith, you can flip any 2 cards in the game face down, which basically means they're not going to score if they're in other people's village, or you might want to flip your own that maybe were flipped a little bit earlier, so it can hurt other people or help fix your own destiny there. Now the blue, which is the navigator, also the goat, you can exchange a card from any village with one from the King's Council. So you can take from here and swap it with all the cards that are in the middle of the table, which is the King's Council. Now, with the purple with the links, you can exchange a card with any card from an opponent's village. So essentially you're messing with other people and swapping cards with them. Now the green one is the wolf, also known as the scout, and this one allows you to use the power of, or the effect of, the card that you just placed in the King's Council. Now if it's this card, it does nothing, but if it's any of these that you just placed in the King's Council first that round, you get to activate their ability. Now the bear, which is also gold, and the warrior, you can remove a card from any village and place it under the draw pile, and then you draw one from the top to replace it sort of randomly. And the last one is the bard, or the fox, also sort of yellow. You can exchange a card from your hand with a card from your village, but you don't do it, it's not possible to play that same card in the same turn. So those are the 6 different effects that you can do when you play them in your village. Now you'll play anywhere between 6 and 10 rounds depending on how many players, between 2 and 4 players. On the last round, you don't put one in the King's Council, you just play one in your village like normal, doing the optional effect, and then you actually score before the next player takes his last turn, because you get to score that before everyone can mess with your turn. Then you do basically the final scoring for yourself. Let's look at that. And when you score, you look at the King's Council in your village, and you do them each character one at a time. And in this example, this is an abbreviated example, but for instance, there are 3 navigators in the King's Council, so each of my navigators in my village are going to be worth 3 points. I have one of those, so under navigator for the King's Council, I would get 3 points. Then, I would get 4 points if I have an equal amount of navigators and scouts. Well, I don't have any scouts, so I would not get this bonus like this. Now, for the merchants here, each of my merchants is worth 1 point. I have 3 of them, so I would get 3 points for merchants. And this says each one of these is +1 if for every one of the navigators I have. I have 1 navigator, so each one of these is worth another point, and I would get 3 there. And you would do similar things for the other characters, but let me show you how they score. Now, the blacksmith says if you have more of these warriors in your village than blacksmiths, you'd get 4 extra bonus points. The bard says if you have more bards then merchants, these guys here, you would get 4 extra bonus points. Now, each warrior card in your village at the end will give you 1 bonus point for every bard that's in your village. And for the links here, you'll get +2 for every face down card that's in your village, as we saw those get flipped over by the boar earlier. And then after everyone has had their final turn and tallied up all their points, the one whoever has the most is the winner. There's also a few variants you can play with. These are the scholars. You basically replace 1 card of each character with many of these different scholars. And then what happens is you can't place him in the King's Council, but when you play him in your village, this guy can protect any one type of character for the game. Nobody can mess with them. And then at the end of the game, this character counts as any one of the 6 character types. For a beginner variant or a child variant, you can play what's called the Allegiance to the King, where none of these extra bonuses actually come into play at the end of the game. You just use the prestige counted for the King's Council and however many you have in your village. It's a much simpler version of the game for teaching or for small children. And you can also play as teams where you sit across from each other. This would be Team A, this would be Team B. So when you go clockwise, it goes A, B, A, B. And at the end, you just tally up the points from both players from that team, and one team would win together. Now, as you can tell, this is a very light card game. It's easy to teach, easy to learn, and it's pretty quick. 30 minutes or less is pretty much it. As you saw, you're just playing a card in the council, playing a card in your village, maybe activating an effect, and then drawing a couple of cards, and that's pretty much your whole turn. But even with that being said, it's more tactical than strategic. You can try to think of some of these cards go well together as the final bonuses if they're mated together, as you saw. Sometimes you want more of one than the other. There's some interesting final game scoring there, but at the same time, it's very tactical because you're trying to figure out which ability will do me the best right now. We'll be flipping over somebody else's card, getting rid of this villager, swapping with somebody else. So there's a lot of take that, there's a lot of things moving around, and your plans are going to get thwart, but how do you react to those is what matters most in this game. So this is a great, quick, tactical, easy card game for 2 to 4 players. Now, if you're interested in this, Kickstarter has it live right now. Eagle Gryphon Games is running this Kickstarter, and if you click on the link directly below me in the description of this video, you'll be brought right to the Kickstarter page where you can check it out more. And they're also offering another game along with this called Slough Off, which is a trick-taking card game.